Switch now to Fortnite's new Gyro update. What is Gyro Settings? Well, basically, it allows you to move your controller around in a 360-degree motion. Then, inside of the game, it tracks it where your controller is pointed towards. This is absolutely game-changing for controller players, and that is why we are breaking down the top best settings for the new Gyro update. What this Gyro update includes is even aiming down sights motions, where basically when you are aiming, you can change your controller pattern to follow a much more precision-based aiming. This is very huge for controller players, and even it includes moving around and just general looking. This is a very easy setting that anybody can switch on. Now, I can tell you guys firsthand that this is more like aimbot than any other setting beforehand. This is very overpowered, and I'm going to recommend that everybody needs to try out this new setting. It even includes things such as just the normal looking and resetting. Now, what does this mean? Well, basically, when you move your controller, you can then reset your movement path so that you have an even more smooth gameplay experience when using this. There is also the new feature of the flick stick, where basically, as a mouse and keyboard player, you can flick the controller. Well, basically, they added this to controller, where now you can do 180-degree movements by flicking the stick, which is once again a new setting that we are going to talk about. This is completely game-changing for every single console player, and that is why we are going to break down the best settings that you need to use for the new Gyro settings added in Fortnite today. So do not be too late, and let's get into the actual settings. Alright, where you can find the new Gyro settings is by opening up the pause menu and heading over to the setting menu. Now, this is going to work on all consoles and including PC. You will simply need to make your way over to where it has the new gyro options such as the touch and motion settings. What you will need to do to actually turn on the setting initially is simply switch the gyro aiming to on. Once you have done that, you are now going to be added up with a few different settings that you guys probably will not understand. So let me go ahead and break these down for you. And what is the best settings to use? So basically what it is the active mode. Well, basically this is where the gyro actually takes place. So when you move around your controller in a 360 dimension, where will it actually affect it? You can have it on your scope such as a sniper, or you can have it on your scope and aiming down, so using a SCAR or SMG for example, or you can have it on all of those options, and you can also have it when you are just looking around, such as harvesting. And then the final one is just all the time it will be active, so you can always use the 360 motion. I'm going to be giving you the best settings and what I personally think is the best. At the moment, I believe for combat at least, only the scope or aiming setting is the one you would like to use. Next up, for active mode / building. Now, what you can have for the actual building tab is when you are building, do you want to have the gyro motion enabled? Well, I'm going to give you the best setting for that, and I personally don't think that you really want this when are building. However, when it can be very useful is something in the editing sector. So, for the second mode, I think you should only have it on editing, because when you are editing, you can actually snap to edit and quickly make smooth and fast edits, which is super beneficial keeping up with some of those fast PC editors. Now, look stick effect. This is a very big one for you guys, and is a really huge game changer. So what this is when you are just looking around normally and using your look sticks, instead it will replace this factor, and you will always constantly having to move your controller in a 360-degree pattern to turn around. I'm going to announce to you guys, I don't think that this is very helpful, because the fact is when you go ahead and turn around in a 90-degree fashion, your controller is then stuck in that way, and then the question is, how do you get it back but without turning back? So this setting is slightly annoying unless you have another setting we're going to talk about in a minute turned on. However, for the meantime, I would personally have this on disables. Now, in terms of sensitivity, what do you guys want to use for this new gyro sensitivity? Well, basically, it can go all the way up to a very high sensitivity of 10, or it can go all the way down to the sensitivity of 0, which will match any sensitivity you currently play on. However, I'm going to recommend you guys stay at the default value for a couple of days just to get used to it, because this is a very new technology that not many people are used to. Next up is vertical horizontal ratio. This basically means is when you go ahead and flick the gyro up, how quickly it will react compared to left and right. Now, definitely I would not recommend playing around with this, and I would keep it at 1:1 so that it was equal in all directions. Next up, for steadying, once again, there is some very fine tuning you can do, but it is going to be very much down to who believes what is the best. So for the first few days of trying this out, I recommend just sitting it on 5%, which is the default values which Fortnite games have basically recommended for us to use. Next up is acceleration. Now, this is how fast basically the flick stick is going to work and the gyro sensitivity is going to work. Now, basically the acceleration of how quickly it speeds up is obviously how fast it's going to move. So you can have this fine-tuned on custom settings where you can actually go ahead and play around with exactly what you want to do. However, I'm going to actually suggest against this and actually suggest you use the acceleration of 2 times speed. Then next up is flick stick, which is a huge setting for this new update. Flick stick, we already touched on this earlier, is when you go ahead and pull down, it will do a 180-degree flick instantly for you, similar to mouse and keyboard players. So this setting is absolutely huge, but as you can see, when you actually enable this, it will warn you the fact that what you will have to have basically the gyro setting on all the time, because you can't look up and down, because if you look up, it will flick the stick. So unless you want to have the flick stick on, then in that case, you will actually have to have the gyro on all the time, and you won't be able to even use your normal look stick. So that is quite a big leap, and I personally would recommend for the first few days of getting used to this, is that what you do is have this off, and then you just simply get used to aiming down with the gyro, just so you are familiar with it. Then after a few days, you can go ahead and switch on the flick stick setting. However, there is actually one last final setting, which is advanced gyro settings. Now, as you can see, once you turn this on, you are going to get a plethora of loads of different settings. Now, this is the very first day the Fortnite update has come out, and now this is a very new setting to absolutely everybody. Now, this is a very fine-tuned operation here, and it really depends down to what players like, because it really is not a matter of what is the best setting. It is a matter of you getting to used to this setting in creative and spending hours finding out what you feel is the very best for each other, because this gyro sensitivity is very delicate and is very precise. So nobody can really recommend you a best setting, but if anything, what you can do is just start out using the default values that are on my screen right here. But if you have made it to the end of this video, I'm actually going to be giving away some skins from the item shop. So if you are seeing this and want to be gifted, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to my channel, and comment your usernames down below, and I'm going to be gifting some people something from the item shop.